Hi, everybody. Welcome to the virtual Camporee.
Oh, hey, Seth. Oh, Kathy, Kennard. I'm super excited about this. Are you guys feeling ready? I got my tent. I got my water. I'm set.
I feel
Super excited. I'm all set up, ready for my fire.
And I'm ready to go too.
we have lots of great things planned for you Scouts this weekend. One of the things we're going to be doing this weekend is a Scouts bingo, where you can mark things off as we do them throughout the weekend. Once you get a bingo, you can upload your bingo sheet to quinnipiaccom@gmail.com. And some of the first people to turn in their bingo cards will receive a big prize. Caroline, can you tell us what else we're doing?
I will. So I hope everybody's ready to stretch a little bit and make sure you kind of warm up a little bit, because we're going to do some out and scouting. It wouldn't be scouting if we weren't outside. And we're going to run, hike, walk, whatever it is you want to do. And you can start now. You can start tomorrow morning. You can do it on Sunday. But sometime during this weekend, if you could get outside, do some walking, some running, some hiking. I'm ready to go. I'm going to go tomorrow morning before everything starts so that I can be ready to make sure that everything is happening fine at Camporee Central. And then if you could just please upload your photos, either upload them to the same email address, quinnipiaccom@gmail.com, or either of the Quinnipiac District or Camporee Facebook pages, or the Quinnipiac District Instagram, anywhere like that. We're going to be collecting photos and we'll try to show them during the event. We just want to make sure everybody's getting out and doing stuff and healthy and active. Kathy, I think you were going to talk a little bit about merit badges.
Hey, thanks, Caroline. The merit badges are going to be absolutely fantastic. One word of note that you should be there on time and try to stay online with your counselor throughout the entire time of the merit badge. They're there to support you, and we hope that you have a great experience learning with those counselors. And I'd love to hear more from Kennard. It's up to you.
Thank you, Kathy. How's everyone doing today? I'm here to talk about the campfire. How many of you have been at a virtual campfire? I know I haven't. This would be my first, but I'm really excited to be a part of the virtual campfire. So look, if you're pitching outside or whether you're inside, it doesn't matter. We just want you to join, because there's going to be skits, there's going to be singing, and there's going to be a lot of fun. So please enjoy yourself this weekend, because this is our first Camporee. It's virtual, and I'm excited, and I'm ready to go.
So I'm sure you all know that the theme of this year's virtual Camporee is Everyday Heroes. Everyday heroes can be lots of people: nurses, doctors, military personnel, grocery store clerks. And throughout the course of this weekend, we're going to feature a lot of interviews with some of our everyday heroes, both locally and some more nationally known figures. And that first interview is coming up right now.
So are we ready? Are you guys excited? Because this is about to start.
I am so ready. I'm so
ready. I can't wait. I'll see you guys in a few minutes at the campfire. Meet you there. Well, Kevin, welcome to the Everyday Heroes Camporee. We really appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure.
I'm wondering if you can tell us a bit about yourself and your career.
Currently, I'm a career firefighter paramedic with the town of Hamden. Before that, I was working for AMR, the transport service in New Haven County for about 10 years. And then before that, in 2001, up to 2001, I should say, from 1995 to 2001, I was in the Army in the 75th Ranger Regiment as a medic. And then before that, I worked as a civilian EMT, and I was also in the National Guard in Pennsylvania at the time.
So medical all the way through.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit? Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in scouting?
Right now, I'm an assistant scoutmaster with Troop 600 here in Hamden.
And were you a scout?
I'm sorry?
Were you a scout as a youth?
Yes, I was actually. I started out in Cubs way back when, and worked my way up to Star before I moved here in high school. And unfortunately, I only made it to Star. But after high school, when I was in the National Guard, I also was an assistant scoutmaster down in Pennsylvania with the troop down there. Unfortunately, when I was active duty from 95 to 2000, I didn't have time. So there was quite a pause, and I didn't pick it up again until 2010, actually, the centennial. I started working those again.
Very cool. How important do you think scouting is to the youth today?
I think it's very important. It teaches life skills. If nothing else, it exposes people to different career fields if they're interested in it, either through exploring or just through the merit badge work. Myself in particular, I didn't know anything about the medical field until I was in Scouts, and that was my first exposure to it when I thought I would like it. It just teaches all around life skills. It's a good thing to have. It's better we have it than we don't.
Yeah, I agree. So a different track, you were exposed to coronavirus as a function of your job, and you were subsequently hospitalized with COVID-19. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and what your feelings are about high-risk careers as a first responder are as a result?
It was all very sudden. I can tell you that. It was early on in when the pandemic started to hit, so we weren't taking precautions for every single person, but if someone was symptomatic, they would have us take precautions with the mask and the gowns and whatnot. And the patient that we went to wasn't symptomatic, so we didn't take any precautions. And then we find out 24 hours later, when she was in the hospital, they tested her and found out she was positive. And within 48 hours of that, or I guess within 3 days of that, I became symptomatic myself. So,
wow.
Yeah, and then within a week, by the end of the week, I should say, I was tested and found positive. And then 2 days after that, my breathing got so bad that I got transported down to Yale and spent 5 days down at Yale New Haven Hospital.
Wow. Well, yeah. I'm glad you're better. I think we all are.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I'm better too. And I mean, as far as first responders, it's as much as I hate to say it, it's part of the job. It comes with the territory. You know, just like going into burning buildings, we go to help the sick and injured, and there are times where we have to do. I mean, that's what we do. We do the stuff that nobody else either wants to do or is able to do, and we go do it. And you know, we accept that as part of the job. So yeah. I mean, if it's not the coronavirus, it's influenza or measles or any number of things that we're exposed to on a daily basis. And you can't go around and, you know, we can't work in fear of it, but it's the, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a manageable risk. You know, you wear your positive protection, your PPE, wash your hands. That's a big thing. Wash your hands. That's my plug. Wash your hands. And you know, there's only so much you can do. But if you do, you know, it's a numbers game. If you do use the precautions, chances are you'll be fine.
Good to know. Okay, so I have a question from a local scout from Madison. How did you decide to pursue the field of firefighter? And you're also a paramedic, correct?
Correct. Let's see. Well, if you want to go all the way back to when I could barely walk, um, at one point in their life, every kid wanted to be a firefighter. At one point in their life, every kid saw the big shiny red truck with the lights and was like, "Wow, that's so cool." Most of us outgrew that. I, however, did not. When I was literally a toddler, barely old enough to walk, uh, and I was staying at my grandmother's house outside of Philadelphia, I walked from her house to the local fire department because it was on the way to the grocery store. So I knew how to get to the grocery store. So I walked there without her knowing. And when I got there, they were like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "I want to be a fireman." And so eventually the neighbors came and got me, and I was sitting on the back of the fire truck with a helmet on, about this big, eating an ice cream cone, saying, "I'm a fireman." So if you want to go back, that's when it started. Uh, but I've always been fascinated by the profession and the ability to help others, and again, doing things that there are days when I can't believe we get paid to do what we do. A lot of times it's fun. Sometimes it's not. But again, you take that, you go into the profession knowing that, kind of like being in the service,
Yeah.
being in the military.
So do you, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say it's I kept it in my head throughout the years. I volunteered for a while when I was younger, and literally was standing in the volunteer firehouse, looking around, saying the only thing cooler than what we do right now would be getting paid to do this. And fast forward to 2010 when I had the opportunity, and I took it.
Awesome. So from the same scout, do you think about the risks on a day-to-day basis?
Not on a day-to-day basis. Again, I mean, you can't. It's a risky job. You can't. There's no way not to think about them, but you can't focus on them. You can't let it control your response. I forget the exact quote, but George Patton said once that fear is okay, but you can't let the fear control you. And it's kind of like with us. I mean, we know that it's inherently risky what we do, but again, we manage the risk. We train ourselves as much as we can. We practice a lot. Anybody that's been in Hamden right now could see behind the middle school we have a trailer. We've been using that for the past couple of weeks that we go in and practice putting out fires as much as we can. So we think about the risk, but again, we don't let the fear of it control our actions.
Okay. Do you ever question whether it was the right choice of a career for yourself?
Once I did, and I can laugh about it now, but the very first time that I responded to a fire, I had been a firefighter about 5 years at this point, so I had been to fires before, but I had never been the guy with the nozzle in my hand going into the burning building. And I'm not gonna lie, when I had to do that, when I was the guy that they were like, "Okay, there's the fire. Go put out that fire. You put that fire out." I'm not gonna lie, I had to sit there and think about, did I make the wisest career choice? But again, it was just a split second thing. It's like, okay, I'm here. I have well trained people behind me. They're not gonna let anything happen to me. Uh, they're not going to let me do anything inherently unsafe, and we just went into the job. So that was the only time I could honestly say I questioned it. But no, not really. Like I said, this is the job that every kid dreams about. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
Good. I have another question from a scout from Southington. Has there been one experience that you can think of that affected or changed you the most, and what would that be?
Yes. Excuse me. Yes, there is one. I would say it was absolutely the worst call I ever did in my career, and there was a time when I didn't even want to talk about it. But I've been to counseling and I've been able to come to grips to it. But yeah, it was the first time I had taken a person that I knew, a friend of mine, a personal friend of mine, took them to the hospital, and unfortunately, she was there was nothing we could have done. She was deceased before we even got to the hospital, or excuse me, before we even got to her house. And but we still worked on her. We still did absolutely everything we could, and I was shaken by it. Absolutely, yeah. It was very difficult for me to accept. But again, I they have support for us and things like that, and I was able to work through it. It shook me, that's for sure, definitely. And to talking to a friend of mine that I work with, he said if you do the job long enough, eventually you will see someone you know. And that was the first time it had happened to me, and it was definitely a career defining moment.
So considering those things, you've been injured, you've lost a friend that you were sent to care for, you got the coronavirus. Has that made you rethink your career at all?
Honestly, no, not really. If anything, I wish I'd started sooner.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I was at the age where a lot of guys retire. When I started, I was 40 years old, and the hose isn't getting any lighter. But I still have to go and do it, and I still have to keep up with these guys who are, 20, 30 years younger than me. But as far as thinking I made the wrong decision, no, not really. I found that the people that do this job, it's kind of like being in the service. It's a calling. Nobody does it to get rich. You're not going to get rich doing this job. But who is it? Anthony Bourdain has a really good quote about it, and I wish I could remember it. But he said more or less that the guys he knows that are firefighters, they're kind of like Marines in that they do it because they have a passion for it. They don't. That's the only way to describe it. We're always, not always, but sometimes we get the short end of the stick. Unless there's a big sentinel event like a 9/11 or a pandemic or something like that, most of the time we're fighting for scraps, for money to pay for our equipment and whatnot. And, but people still do the job, because we love it. We absolutely love it. It is everybody who does it thinks it's the coolest job in the world.
Awesome.
And I will agree with that.
I guess you'd kind of have to have a passion for it.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, it's like being very similar to being in the military or being a nurse or a doctor. I mean, you have to want to do it.
Yeah, definitely. What is the proudest moment of your career?
I had to give that one some thought, but definitely when the first time we did CPR on a patient and he survived and walked out of the hospital. It was the perfect storm of everything that could have gone right did. This gentleman, when he passed out and had his heart attack, there were first responders there that were volunteer firefighters, so they started CPR immediately. They put him on an AED immediately. We were there within 5 minutes of his collapse. We were on our way to the hospital within 10, and we got pulses back on this patient before we got to the hospital. And he was literally able to walk out of the hospital without any problems, without any deficit 2 weeks later. Wow. And knowing that I was part of that team, because it is a team, it's not just one guy. It's always a team. Everybody has a role to play. And knowing that I was part of that team, that we all worked together to save that guy, I could say that was definitely the proudest part of my career.
Okay, and then from the same scout, what is the most difficult part of your job?
Well, I would say it depends on who you ask. It varies for everybody. And again, this is one I had to. These are some really good questions. I appreciate these questions. They're very, very good questions. I had to sit down and think about these, to think about my responses. And I would say the hardest part is dealing with when we go to a house and a patient dies. it doesn't get any easier. And there's it's never the same situation twice, but dealing with the families, because there's always grieving families to deal with, that it doesn't get any easier. And there's nothing you can do to practice. I mean, like I was saying, we can practice putting out fires, we can practice cutting cars open and taking people out. You know, we can practice doing CPR, we can practice everything that we do for the job, except that one time where we have to go and talk to a patient's family that just passed away.
Mhm.
And there's no easy way to do it. That is definitely the most difficult part of the job.
That makes a lot of sense.
For me anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, some
yeah.
people they're able to do it, but like I said, it doesn't get any easier when I do it. You have
Okay. So that leads to the next question, which is, what are some of the things that you do to manage either stress or fear particularly during the pandemic?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. During this pandemic, it really hasn't affected me as much as some of my peers. So I mean, short of getting sick, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't really feel too sick when I did get sick. So I haven't really had to worry about it. But some of the things that I do just on a regular basis, I spend as much time as I can with my son. Definitely with scouting because he's part of the troop. I mean, you know, going camping, doing outdoor stuff is such a what's the word I'm looking for? It's very soothing. It helps to de-escalate, I guess, if you will. There's any number of things to do. One of the things that we have available to us, like I said, is counseling services, and they teach us coping mechanisms. That for some people it's exercise, for some people it's playing music or sports. Like I said, I try and spend as much time doing things with my son, whether it's going for a hike or like today we were cleaning the garage. But again, I try not to let the fear stop me from doing what I'm doing, as it were.
Good. All right. So I saw your video on Facebook, and I know that you've started making masks to protect folks, and you charge a very nominal fee. But can you talk to us a little bit about that and how you decided to start doing that and how you came up with your design?
I'd love to. Hang on just one moment. I will be right back. But don't go anywhere. Okay, we're back. All right. Normally, you see people that have the masks that go around the ears with the elastics. And a lot of friends I have that wear those at work, at the hospitals and nursing homes, and on the ambulance, they don't like them because eventually it rubs the ears raw in the back. And if you've seen people, they've made holders to pull it off the ears so it doesn't do that. And I never liked the feel of that. So I was thinking that my grandmother, when she was a nurse, my grandmother used to be a nurse. She was her entire career for about 50 years. She worked, she did everything from private duty. And for a while, she worked in a TB ward and a polio ward because she was exposed to both, but she never contracted either disease. So back then, they were like, okay, Tag, you're it. You get to do it. But years ago, she gave me one of her masks. And I don't know if you can see, but unfortunately now it's very threadbare from being almost 60 years old. So I looked at it and I figured I'd copy the design because back when I was in Scouts, I learned how to sew using a sewing machine. So I looked at it and I figured it'd be a pretty easy design. It's just a couple layers of gauze, and these are 1/2 inch wide cotton webbing that's on it. So I bought the materials and basically copied the design and came up with my own. And it ties behind your head, kind of like on that TV show MASH. I'll put one on here in a second. And if you can see, I put a label on there. I got labels made to say Mother Jerome's in honor of my grandmother. Also that way, because a lot of people complain with the mask when they're one color, they can't tell which way is up or which way is out because they don't want to put the dirty side against their face. So that way you can tell which is the side that's on the outside. And So just like if you've ever seen that TV show MASH, it's worn the same way, where you tie it behind your neck and then tie the other ones behind your head. And I also put a piece of aluminum to bed there and seal it around your glasses so that your glasses don't steam up. So anyway, so I started making those. And the video that you referenced, I told people that for every one I make and sell, I would make one and donate it to people that need them, either first responders or nursing homes or whoever would need one. And I've already got 100 that I have to make to donate, and more coming. So, but I got Gabriel to help me and a few other people. So,
Oh, you'll be busy, that's for sure.
yeah, it'll keep me busy.
Another question from a scout in North Brantford.
Okay.
Would you recommend to youth today that they pursue a career in fire safety, and why?
Yes, because again, I think it's the greatest job in the world. Who doesn't love a firefighter? And like I said, there are times where I have to pinch myself and say, it's like, I cannot believe they're paying us to do what we get. I mean, I get to play with big giant trucks and all kinds, and I get to break stuff. I mean, how cool is that? But again, it's just if you want to do it, do it. It's a calling. It's a passion. Years ago, and then I'm showing my age here. There was a show called Emergency 51 on I forget which channel it was, but Johnny Gage and Roy DeSoto, and an entire generation of firefighters, and EMTs, and paramedics can blame being caught the bug or having caught the bug from those two guys. And they travel the world now, going to firefighter conventions, signing autographs and things like that. These two actors. But probably then is when I first thought about it. But yeah, absolutely. If it's something you want to do, helping people, by all means, do it. Yes, it's a very, very rewarding career. The times that are good outweigh the times that are bad, I would say. Definitely. So yes, if you want to do it, by all means, it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. And then lastly, so just in general, what advice might you give to the youth today?
These are good questions. What advice? Follow your passion. Follow your passion. If you want to be a bread baker, be a bread baker. But whatever you do, don't try and seek perfection, but seek excellence. Because perfection is almost impossible to get to, but you can definitely excel at what you're doing. When I was an EMT for the first 5 years, I thought I was pretty darn good at my job. And then I went into active duty in the Army and went into the Ranger Regiment, and I realized that I knew nothing. After 5 years, I thought I knew everything, and I knew zero about what to do with my job and how to do it. How to do it, I wouldn't say properly, but better than I was doing. I thought I was resting on my laurels. A very wise physician assistant I used to work for, who was one of my early mentors, said that if you should never blow your own horn, you should never toot your own horn, because if you're that good, you'll never have to do it. Everyone else will do it for you.
That's a great piece of advice. I love it.
I try. I took that, put it in my back pocket, and I try and live by it as much as I can, because it's so true. Yeah, absolutely. That's
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, so
it
Kevin,
has carried me out in my career. That's for sure.
Good, awesome. On behalf of all of us in scouting, we are so thankful to all that you do every day, keeping folks safe, putting yourself in harm's way. You're a first responder, and you're that front line of protection for many of us. And we just really appreciate it and want to thank you for keeping us all safe.
No, it's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is JP Queenan. I'm Wanaco Lodge's Vice Lodge Chief of Chapter Operations. It has been my pleasure to put together this evening's campfire for all of you. I hope you all enjoy.
infantry is coming! The infantry is coming!
The 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 infantry has arrived!
This looks like a nice fishing spot.
Sir, get off the ice.
Huh. Wonder where that voice came from. I don't know. I'm gonna change fishing spots, not getting anything here. A little more comfortable.
Sir, please do not fish on the ice.
It's that voice again. Where is that voice coming from? I don't know. Maybe it's a sign. Who knows? I'll give it one more shot.
Sir, for the last time, please do not fish in the ice rink.
Oh, that explains why there's no fish here.
I'm Will, and I'm Peter, and we're from Chief Pop Rock Chapter of Wanaco Lodge. This is Froggy. Alright, this is a repeat after me song. Dog, 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 cat, dog, cat, mouse, dog, cat, mouse, Froggy, Froggy. Itsy bitsy teeny weeny little green froggy. Itsy bitsy teeny weeny little green froggy. Jump, 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 little froggy. Jump, 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 little froggy. Gobble up all them worms and spiders. Gobble up all them worms and spiders. Fleas and flies are scrum-diddly-icious. Fleas and flies are scrum-diddly-icious. Ribbit, 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 croak. Ribbit, 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 croak. Faster. Dog, 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 cat, dog, cat, dog, cat, mouse, dog, cat, mouse, froggy, froggy. Itsy bitsy teeny weeny little green froggy. Itsy bitsy teeny weeny little green froggy. Jump, 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 little froggy. Jump, 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 little froggy. Gobble up all them worms and spiders. Gobble up all them worms and spiders. Fleas and flies are scrum-diddly-icious. Fleas and flies are scrum-diddly-icious. Ribbit, 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 croak. Ribbit, 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 croak. Faster, faster. Dog, 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 cat, dog, cat, dog, cat, mouse, dog, cat, mouse, froggy, froggy. It's a bitsy teeny weeny little green froggy. It's a bitsy teeny weeny little green froggy. Jump, 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 little froggy. Jump, 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 little froggy. Gobble up all them worms and spiders. Gobble up all them worms and spiders. Fleas and flies, scrum-diddly-icious. Fleas and flies, scrum-diddly-icious. Ribbit, 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 croak. Ribbit, 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 croak. Froggy, woo, froggy.
Hey, you know what I don't find fair? What? Our boss is sitting over there being a lazy bum while we're working a lot. And he's doing nothing, but he's still getting paid more than us.
You're right, that doesn't make sense. Maybe you should go talk to him about it.
Okay, let's go. Hey, boss!
How are you doing?
How come you get paid more than us when we work all day and you do nothing?
Well, it has something to do with intelligence.
What?
Intelligence.
What's that?
All right, here. Well, let me explain with an example. All right. I'm gonna put my hand down here on the table. I want you to hit it as hard as you can.
With the hammer. Okay!
And that's intelligence.
Okay. So, what'd you find out? It has something to do with intelligence. What? Intelligence. What's that? I don't have a table, so here, try to hit my hand.
The world's most interesting scoutmaster. He can tell directions using the stars during the daytime. He's the only person known to have the merit badge for awesome. His personality is so magnetic, compasses near him are inoperable. His tent has a finished basement and a second floor. He can tell a scoutmaster minute in 57 seconds. Lord Baden-Powell calls him just to chat. His campfire meals were given 5 Michelin stars. He once hiked the entire Appalachian Trail as a weekend stroll. Next to him, the Grand Canyon considers itself mediocre. He can start a fire using flint and aluminum. Ghosts around the campfire tell stories about him. At camp, when his table wins the silver spoon, it is gold-plated. He can tell which tree is a dogwood merely by its bark. His Dutch ovens were a gift from the King of Holland. Trails blaze around his path. He can disarm a bear with just his looks, or his hands, so don't try anything. Mosquitoes do not bite him out of both fear and respect. Sasquatch has taken a photo of him. When he goes fishing, he uses no bait. Fish hook themselves nearly to be around him. He was born in a log cabin he built himself. He once finished a 20-mile hike in 9 miles. Bears stayed downward of him. He once tied a clove hitch from a rusty tent stake. He is the most interesting scoutmaster in the world.
Ribbit, good morning. Good morning. Oh my, my name's Patty Whack. How can I help you?
Hi, Miss Whack. I'd like to get a loan to buy a boat and go on a long vacation.
How much would you like to borrow?
$25,000, please.
What's your name?
My name is Kermit Jagger. My father's Mick Jagger, you see, and he's pretty good friends with your bank manager.
Well, $25,000 is quite a bit of money. We will need some collateral to secure the loan. What do you have?
I have this pommel.
Well, I'm gonna have to talk to the bank manager about this. Mr. Smith, could you come back here, please?
Yes, Miss Whack, what seems to be the trouble?
This frog's name is Kermit Jagger, and he claims his father knows you and wants a $25,000 loan. And he wants to use this hummel as collateral. I don't even know what a hummel is, or if we can even get a loan to a frog.
Why, Miss Whack, that's a knick-knack, Patty Whack. Give the frog a loan. His old man's a rolling stone.
Hi. You know, one of the things I used to do when I was a scout is I would go to scout camp. And I was actually a counselor at scout camp, but they gave me a very specific job to do. Since they didn't trust me doing a lot of hard tasks, all they did was gave me a job of painting signs that pointed to the left. every day I painted my sign that pointed to the left. Both sides, every sign, for some reason, only wanted them to be pointing to the left. Well, one day, while I'm painting my signs that point to the left, the Scoutmaster, he's in charge of Scoutmasting, came up to me and said, "That's not right." "Of course that's not right, that's left." He goes, "No, the other problem is the other side of your sign points to the right. And we know that right isn't left." "No," I said, "right is left. So if I take the sign and turn it like this, so it points to the left, the sign is right, because the right sign points to the left." He goes, "Now the problem is your other side will point to the right." I said, "No, I already painted that side so it points to the left. So both signs already point to the left, and left is right." Well, as I was painting my signs that pointed to the left, he walked away and grumbled, and I haven't seen him since. Well, I just kept on doing every day during the summer, painting my signs that pointed to the left. Until one day, the assistant scoutmaster, he's in charge of assistant scoutmasting, well, he came up to me and said, "That sign's not right." I said, "I just went over that with the scoutmaster. The sign's not right because it points to the left and left is right." He goes, "No, the problem is your other side points down, and Camp Sequoia does not have a subway system." I said, "No problem, I'll just turn the sign so it points to the left, and since the other side already points to the left, the sign is right." Well, he walked away and he was grumbling, and I think about it, I haven't seen him in like 30 years. Well, there's no doubt in my mind, my signs were right because both sides pointed to the left. There's only one problem. Even though they pointed to the left, they thought someone else was being the fool.
For the next 10 seconds, we will conduct a test of the emergency broadcast system.
Beep.
This has been a test of the emergency broadcast system. If this had been a real emergency, you would have heard.
Hello, Scouts and Scouters. My name is Joseph Lafredo. I am your Vice Chief of Program for Awanico Lodge, and I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. Tonight, we are going to be reading the story of the Raven. Long ago, near the beginning of the world, the great eagle was the guardian of the sun and the moon and the stars, of the water and of the fire. Great Eagle hated people so much that he kept these things hidden. People lived in darkness, without fire and without fresh water. Great Eagle had a beautiful daughter, and Raven fell in love with her. At that time, Raven was a handsome young man. He changed himself into a snow-white bird, and as a snow white bird, he pleased Great Eagle's daughter. So she invited him to her father's lodge. When Raven saw the sun and the moon and the stars and the fresh water hanging on the sides of Eagle's lodge, he knew what he had to do. He waited for his chance to seize them when no one was watching. He stole all of them, and a brand of fire also. He flew out of the lodge, through a smoke hole. As soon as Raven got outside, he hung the sun up in the sky. It made so much light that when he was able to fly far out to an island in the middle of the ocean. When the sun set, he fastened the moon up to the sky and hung the stars around in different places. By this new light, he kept on flying, carrying with him the fresh water and brand of fire he had stolen. He flew back over the land. When he had reached the right place, he dropped all the water he had stolen. It fell to the ground, and there it became the source of all freshwater streams and lakes in the world. Then Raven flew on, holding the brand of fire in his bill. The smoke from the fire blew back over his white feathers and made them black. When his bill began to burn, he had to drop the firebrand. It stuck to the rocks and went into the rocks. That is why, if you strike two stones together, fire will drop out. The raven's feathers never became white again, after they were blackened by the smoke from the firebrand. That's why Ravens is now a black bird. And that is the end of our story. Hope you guys have a great night and enjoy the rest of your campfire.
Softly falls the light of day as our campfire fades away. Silently each scout should ask, have I done my daily task? Have I kept my honor bright? Can I guiltless sleep tonight? Have I done and have I dared everything to be prepared? On my honor, I'll do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed tonight's campfire.
Wow, everybody, that was pretty awesome. I can't believe what a wonderful campfire that was. Thank you to the OA for producing that and sharing it with all of us. Anyone who's interested in the Order of the Arrow, it's a great organization. You can find more information on their website, which is awanaco.org. And just don't forget that if you want to submit submissions for tomorrow night's campfire, which should be great as well, it'll be all of you. So please upload those as soon as possible to quinnipiaccom.gmail.com, and we'll look forward to seeing all of your great skits tomorrow night at the campfire. Have a great night.
All right, this is J.C. Sinelli again from Camporee District, and I have the pleasure to welcome at this time to our Camporee, Captain John Rotruck of the United States Naval Ship Mercy. Welcome, Captain Rotruck.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm sure some of our scouts may have seen the Mercy come into Los Angeles. You've been in the news a lot recently. Before we talk about that, can you tell us a little bit about the ship itself?
Sure. So we're a 1,000-bed hospital ship that includes 12 operating rooms. We have the full breadth of medical and surgical capability on board. So we have intensive care units, ward beds as well. We can do all kinds of surgeries. The ship itself is actually the second biggest ship in the U.S. Navy, second only in size to a super carrier. So we're able to essentially transport that 1,000-bed hospital anywhere in the world, whether we're anchored out somewhere or we tie up pierside. In many parts of the world, you can imagine that a 1,000-bed hospital run by the United States is the largest and most capable hospital present in any direction for hundreds or even thousands of miles.
So I did a little research, and it looks like the Mercy actually started life out as an oil tanker. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the Mercy was a San Clemente class oil tanker, as was its sister ship, the Comfort. The U.S. Navy purchased both the hulls themselves, the tankers, and the conversion process from NASCO here in San Diego. And the conversion for both ships took place here in San Diego. Construction on the Mercy started in 1985, was completed in 1986, and the Mercy was the first of the two ships that completed the transition, so therefore it is the Mercy class of hospital ships, numbers 19 and 20.
That makes sense. So I had a scout from Trumbull, Thomas from Trumbull asked, how many hospital beds do you have on the ship itself?
Sure. So once again, it's 1,000 beds total, and 88 of those are intensive care unit beds. The rest are ward beds. And of the remaining beds, 460 are actually second-story bunk beds. So as you can imagine, those are very good for transporting, say, displaced persons from a humanitarian crisis, people with behavioral health issues or non-combat injuries. But those will be a little more challenging to use in the setting of people that had sustained significant combat injuries. So not all beds are quite the same flavor on the ship.
Gotcha. And we had a Nick from Trumbull also ask how many operating rooms there were on the ship.
There are a total of 12. They're all quite large, actually, by civilian hospital standards, but the idea being that if we were taking care of combat casualties, we might have to have several different kinds of surgeons operating on the same patient at the same time. So in other words, we could have orthopedists working on the limbs, we could have general surgeons and thoracic surgeons, kind of working here in the center of the chest and the abdomen all at the same time. And one of our 12 operating rooms actually doubles as what we call a hybrid operating room, which essentially has interventional radiology capabilities. So very, very big fluoroscopes in the room so that we can do procedures under fluoroscopy, but in the sterile environment of an operating room.
We have a scout, Joseph, who asked how many doctors and nurses are there on the ship?
So the full crew for the ship of military folks is up to 1,200. Roughly 2/3 of those are medical and the other third is non-medical. So as you can imagine, it takes a lot of non-medical people to run a hospital. So we have culinary specialists, information technology folks, retail specialists, machinist mates who make our oxygen for us. We're one of only 2 types of ship in the Navy that can make their own oxygen. So we have a lot of people who are not medical but are required to effectively support the running of the hospital. So essentially everybody on the ship who wears a uniform reports to me as the commanding officer of the medical treatment facility, whether they're medical or non-medical. And then the ship has a complement of civilian mariners who actually run the ship, run the engine, drive the ship, navigate it, and do all the line handling and deck functions. There are typically 37 of them when we're here in San Diego just sitting pierside, and we're out on a mission that number about doubles.
Okay. There is a scout, Frankie from Milford, who asked, has there ever been an experience that affected or changed you the most as a doctor?
Goodness. I think I can speak to that. So for anybody who doesn't know, I'm an anesthesiologist by training. So I was providing care for one of our wounded warriors in the operating room at Bethesda. And that individual had what we call an aspiration event. In other words, they wound up vomiting at the time that we were trying to secure their airway with a breathing tube. And that can be quite catastrophic for someone. So even though we reacted immediately and did the things that you're supposed to do to basically salvage that situation, we did get the breathing tube in and so forth as we had intended. Ultimately, the long-term effects of that wound up being part of the reason why this individual passed away about a month later. And I've definitely carried that with me ever since. I mean, as you can imagine, it's both gratifying and also very challenging to take care of some of our combat injured warriors, particularly when you look at the extent of the injuries that they've suffered and the service of the nation. And of course, you always want to do your best for everyone, including that group in particular. It was definitely a struggle that we didn't do anything wrong, but ultimately we weren't able to provide the long-term life-saving care that we wanted to for this individual.
Sure, I'm sure that's something it's got to be difficult when we're often making life and death decisions as part of your job. The thing I want to talk to you about now is I noticed that you're wearing a Scout uniform, not a Navy uniform. You are an Eagle Scout, and can you tell us a little bit about your scouting history?
Sure. So I did all my scouting in Central Florida as a youth. I'd never been a Cub Scout, so my family moved to Central Florida when I was a Boy Scout age. So I don't think I had an unusual experience necessarily. I was at the troop that met at the church that my family attended. I think Central Florida is a great place to grow up. Obviously the weather's very conducive to year-round scouting. I can't say that I ever did snow skiing or anything like that as a scout, but certainly plenty of other outdoor stuff. And just I was in a great district and a great council with a lot of activities and opportunities. Certainly doing district camporees or council-wide camporees were very big and very fun events to participate in, and ultimately to hopefully provide some leadership to at some point. I did have the chance to go to a World Scout Jamboree as a youth member. So the 1987-88 World Jamboree in Australia that happened more or less right after Christmas of 1987. That was a tremendous experience to see what scouting around the world was like. As much as we think we've sort of cracked the code and mastered it in its entirety here in the U.S., it's certainly incredibly powerful in so many countries. And I don't think I appreciated it as much as a youth attending the World Jamboree, but the most recent World Jamboree here in America, where I was able to serve on the medical staff, just seeing a lot of countries that don't necessarily get along all that well with each other from a diplomatic perspective and a leadership of the country perspective. The kids in those countries did fine. Nobody needed to, either tell them to get along or anything. It just happened. It's just the magic of scouting that happens.
Yeah, I was at the last National Jamboree, and I saw the same thing with the international scouts that were there. It's a pretty amazing experience. Do you have any particular moments or memories that stick out to you as a youth in scouting?
I mean, certainly the World Jamboree would be one of them, and then my chances to attend National Order of the Arrow conferences again. Tremendous events with a lot of moving parts that sort of blow your mind when you're a youth member of the organization. But I think ultimately, those events inspire us as well to go back to wherever we're from and continue working hard, continue to generate a positive program for everyone in our local area. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to have participated in those, and again, kind of get fired up and go back home and hopefully make the world a better place.
So you mentioned the Order of the Arrow. I had the pleasure of working with you at a couple of the most recent National Order of the Arrow conferences, and I know you've been active since a youth. You were a honor member of the Order of the Arrow, and you're also a recipient of the Distinguished Service Award. Tell us how your experience with the OA has helped shape you in your life personally and in your career.
Sure. So, I think the OA is a great opportunity for older scouts to really, lead, to put it as simply as I possibly can. When you think about the skill set that's required to plan a section conclave, for example, all the moving parts involved with that, particularly, delegating out and trusting that people are doing what they're supposed to do, but verifying at the same time. Those are the exact same leadership traits I use on a day-to-day basis in running the medical treatment facility on USNS Mercy. So I think all those things that we get to do as scouts and as airmen have a direct translation to being successful in whatever professional life we choose to pursue.
Okay. You also have been involved with the National Committee of the Order of the Arrow. Has that experience? How is that experience versus working with the, let's say, the United States Navy?
Well, obviously, in a setting like the National Order of the Arrow Committee, you have a lot of folks, a lot of different backgrounds present. And I think, hearing how other people think, particularly people who have been on the committee for a long time, how they approach problems and the sorts of questions that they ask when an issue or a concern comes up, I think is very instructive for me, and I think probably very instructive for other newer members of the committee. It's just a different way of approaching things than perhaps I might have otherwise considered. And I think whenever we're in that environment, whether it's in scouting or in our professional lives, and you have the chance to hear, I'll call more senior, more seasoned folks kind of dissect a problem and ask questions about it. I think you naturally learn from that, so that when you eventually become the more senior person in the room, you've been able to absorb all of that and hopefully put it to good use.
Absolutely, and I like the word seasoned. As I've gotten older, I like the word seasoned better than senior. Let's talk about your most recent mission. As I alluded to in the beginning, you were asked to go to Los Angeles. I actually want to share a screen, a quick video of your ship coming in. For the folks watching, this is a video of the Mercy coming into Los Angeles. Now, you guys have left LA. You've gone back to San Diego. Is that right?
That's correct.
So, tell us a little bit about the time that you were in Los Angeles. What was the mission there?
Sure. So our fundamental reason for being there was to act as a relief valve for local hospitals, so that we could take hospital transfers of non-COVID infected patients, essentially to generate additional capacity within the local hospitals to be able to direct their time and resources to taking care of COVID patients. Put even more simply, we were taking care of the non-COVID folks so they could take care of the COVID folks. And we got there fairly early on in terms of the progress of the pandemic there in Los Angeles. So we were able to establish the systems that we needed to have and the processes that we needed to have to take patients and transfer. We were able to do that very effectively, and not only take patients, but then provide for their acute hospital needs and then get them discharged either to a nursing facility or to home, or to help them find placement if they were homeless when they started. So that's very important in terms of generating throughput at a hospital. You have to be able to discharge people as well as bring them on board, otherwise you just wind up filling up. So we were able to continue to regenerate our own capacity to take more patients from LA as we went. And I think we were extremely successful at our mission. We had great partners at the local hospitals and also the county of LA and the state of California. They already had a pre-existing system in place for inter-hospital transfers called the Medical Alert Center. So we just had uniformed service members fall into that and essentially act as our representatives within that center. So we essentially were just another hospital in the LA area for hospitals to transfer to, just as if the way that their system normally runs. We didn't develop anything new for that.
So I saw on some of the news coverage that you actually had some crewmen that came down with the virus. Is that right?
We did. Yeah, so throughout the Department of Defense Defense Support of Civil Authorities mission, or DISCA, as we call it in the business, less than 1% of people who supported the DISCA response throughout the country ultimately wound up being diagnosed with COVID, and Mercy's numbers reflected that as well. So when we did have COVID positive crew members, of course, we immediately put them into isolation, and we wound up putting them in isolation off the ship. We also conducted a contact interview to see who met the CDC definition of a close contact for our COVID positive sailors. So that definition is less than 6 feet for more than 10 minutes. So we ultimately wound up having more than 120 close contacts that we also put into quarantine. So more than 10% of the whole crew for the mission was in quarantine. Obviously not all at the same time. but a pretty significant number nevertheless. And we also had them in quarantine off of the ship. So that was one of our mitigation strategies to try to prevent further spread of the virus. And in addition to that, we of course closed our gyms, as I think just about every other Navy ship has done, and closed our barbershops. We do social distancing to the maximum extent that you can in the confined space of a ship. And even in our eating areas, we actually spread people out more. So we took away about half the chairs, so people couldn't sit directly across from each other at the tables. And we set up some additional tables under a tent on our flight deck to help people to spread out while they were eating, because that was really the one time people weren't wearing their cloth masks, was while they were actively eating their meals. The rest of the time, everybody was walking around in cloth masks, unless, of course, they were engaged in direct patient care, in which case they had an N95 mask and other PPE on.
Okay. And you were getting when you get your PPE and stuff like that, you have to go through the same stream as any of the local hospitals did?
Sort of, but there is a much larger defense logistics pathway that we use to acquire our medical consumables, to include the PPE. But ultimately, the big defense logistics in the sky, if you will, has to go to those same private companies, those private vendors, to get the supplies.
Okay. Now I'm sure we have some scouts out there that are wondering how they can, if they themselves have an interest in going into medicine or going to the service. Do you have any words of advice for those scouts?
Sure. So I'll tackle medicine first. If you're interested, I would definitely try to find one or more physicians who are local to you and shadow them, and really get a sense of what the actual practice of medicine is like. It's not entirely what you see on TV, depending on which show you watch, but I would definitely spend that time with them and just get a real understanding of whether or not you think being a physician is for you. And obviously there are many different specialties in medicine, so if you really wanted to dig into it, spend some time with people who are doing inpatient work or work in the operating room, as well as people who are seeing a clinic, in an outpatient setting. Get a sense of all the different things that are out there. One, I think that'll help you make a good decision about whether medicine is right for you. And two, ultimately, as you're looking to apply to medical school, the expectation of the medical school admissions committees is that you have done that shadowing and spent that time with physicians to make sure that that medicine is a good choice for you, and that you are a good fit for the practice of medicine. And they'll expect you to have a letter of recommendation from at least one of those physicians, indicating that you interact well with patients, you interact well with the rest of the staff, and so forth. So definitely take that opportunity, get some shadowing, get some mentoring from the physicians as well. For anybody interested in the military, obviously there are many different pathways into the military, and virtually limitless things that you can do. For military medicine in particular, for being a physician, all you need is an acceptance letter from a medical school, and you're all set. You can turn in your application to your local medical recruiter, and they'll be happy to get you set up from there. For those who don't know, the Marines don't have their own medical forces; those all come from the Navy. So all of the physicians, corpsmen, dentists, chaplains, and religious program assistants are all uniform-wearing Navy folks who work with the Marines. And that's because every Marine under the Geneva Convention is a combatant. And of course, all the medical people and chaplains and so forth are non-combatants under the Geneva Convention. So you can't be a Marine and be a non-combatant at the same time. But that was a great opportunity for me as a Navy physician to be able to work with the Marines. So a couple of my tours, tremendous group of people, and I absolutely loved working with them. But yes, to get back to your question, many ways to enter the military. See your local recruiter; they'll be happy to chat. I guarantee it.
That's fantastic. And I just wanted to also follow up. So as I stated earlier, we had worked together at the NOAC. This year's National Aero Conference has been canceled, as well as many summer camps throughout the nation, disappointing a lot of scouts and scouters alike. Any words of advice that you would give to them to sort of get through this difficult period and to look forward to the future?
I'll throw out a few things. One, we use the term social distancing a lot, but that's probably not the right terminology that we should be using. What we're really talking about is physical distancing, not social distancing. So don't don't sort of let the COVID crisis be the opportunity where people crawl out of their shell and don't socialize, whether it's via Zoom as we're doing or video chat or whatever. You can certainly still plan events. You can conduct training, for example. And if there's something that you need to do as an individual, now is a good time to focus that time and effort on it. Whether it's something you need to read or a project you need to accomplish, take this time when you can't necessarily spend as much time out of doors focusing on those things that do require you to be at a computer screen or be indoors to get through them. So that way, once we are able to congregate outside a little more freely, you'll already have that project or that thing accomplished and behind you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Captain. I don't have any other questions for you at this time. I really do appreciate you joining us today for our Camporee. I understand you're on leave right now, so enjoy the rest of your leave, and thank you for your service and the service of all the crew of the United States Naval Ship Mercy.
Well, on behalf of the men and women of the USNS Mercy, we hope all the scouts and scouters have a great Camporee and keep scouting.
Thank you.